Well, all right. It's a Nitro-V showdown. Let's get these blades measured up, speak to their characteristics, and start the testing. Here we have a Civivi Stormridge in Nitro-V. It has a tight little Kydex sheath with Tech-Lock style fastener on the back. It's got a nice snappy fit. The blade is 3.8 inches long, 0.1 inches thick with a full flat grind micarta handles, Kydex sheath, 3.4 ounces nude, 6.4 ounces with the sheath. It's roughly 15 thousandths behind the edge and about 40 degrees all inclusive for the edge angle. Ergonomically, this thumb ramp is everywhere my fingers want to be. The handle is too thin and narrow for my hands. It says I'm for an EDC, but then the blade is 3.9 inches long. It's a bit long for an EDC. The Tang is proud of the handles, which in a knife this lightweight is probably not the end of the world, but I still don't like it. And all this extra jimping feels gimmicky. I don't know why you need a lanyard hole on a knife this size, and were I to own it, removing this paracord would be the first thing I would do. The Nitro Vosteed Mink also comes with a nice sheath that includes a mini Tech-Lock thing on the back, suitably sized for its 3.3 inch EDC blade length. The knife snaps nicely into the sheath, but there is some play here. The blade is 0.12 inches thick, saber ground with micarta handles and a Kydex sheath, 5.4 ounces with the sheath, 2.8 ounces without the sheath. 40 degree all-inclusive edge angle, just like the Civivi, at roughly 18 thousandths behind the edge thickness. Just like the Civivi, the fit and finish are great. Everything is flush, parallel, straight. Surfaces are uniform. Now, from a design perspective, this is a great thin little EDC knife in my opinion. The handle shape is not my favorite, but the blade has a good profile. The jimping is well placed. It's rough, but it's not sharp. Overall, this knife knows what it is, and I like that about it. So both knives get a 9 out of 10 for fit and finish. The Civivi Stormridge has some quirky elements, and its child-size handle on an otherwise 3.9 inch blade doesn't make sense to me, and it will be punished. Let's start the testing. Both sheaths did great. The knife stayed in place and there were no breaks. Fit-ups are as before the test. Handle durability. Yep, both handles did great. So the score so far, we have a perfect on the sheaths for both knives and the handles passed. You cute little knives are so tough, aren't you? Tough. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Let's do the rope cut test. Yeah, we're going to go 6 cuts. It's very budget. Slightly better 9 cuts here. All right, are you guys disappointed with the edge retention and rope cutting like I am? I actually sharpened these knives 4 times. The first time I sharpened them, they each went through the rope 3 times. So I started back at 200, went all the way up, tried to knock off a lot of material as I went. Then I got 4 and 5.5 times, back to 200, knocking off a bunch of material. And the last 2 sharpenings, this is what I got. So I'm not going to keep sharpening. I don't know if burn edges are a thing with Nitro-V, but I'm guessing that's what happened here. I don't know. I think if you have to do more sharpening than that, then I'm not sure that's reasonable. I think that's a pretty big defect. At any rate, I know you guys think these blades are small. This is almost a 4-inch knife, which is about the size of most of our test knives. This is a 1095 knife that I'm making now in about a 4-inch blade length, cut 11 times through the rope. This is a shorter blade, almost 3 inches. And this is the Kaiser in S35VN. This is just under a 3-inch blade. It went 14 times through the rope. So I know that you're tempted to blame the blade length on the performance here. I'm not so sure you can do that. Let's baton against the grain and see how durable these edges are. So even though both of these knives held up better than I thought they might in wood, I think the rope cutting, I would call that mediocre, and that's being generous, probably a little too generous. In the tip retention test, the only thing I care about is whether or not the knives break. I really don't care if they bend. When you see me driving the knife into the wood, that's just me having fun. That portion of this testing isn't scored. Pretty good bend there. Not too surprising with this geometry and HRC. And this blade did perfect all around. No issues whatsoever. Here we're dropping my balls of death 5 feet through a tube onto the knives to see if they chip. I don't care if they bend. So little ball was here, and then I dropped the big ball right on top of it. So at any rate, no chipping, just deformation. It's actually a really impressive result for this thin a grind. And then I think this is super impressive. So there's small ball somewhere in here you can't hardly see. Then a bunch of attempts at big ball. I think I hit the side of the knife. No, it hit the edge and rolled down. And then right there I had a really square hit. But in any case, it's a perfect result. You could sharpen this back. There's no side-to-side deformation. Yeah, both knives do really well in the Ballz test and tip retention. I guess that's a tribute to the toughness of the Nitro-V. But what's my conclusion? First of all, no one can tell you how to feel about a knife except for me. Oh yeah! I don't know what to make of Nitro-V. I've never had a Nitro-V knife before. It's a very tough steel, but compared to other stainless, not especially stainless. The edge retention is not good either. The Civivi looks good. It's just not a knife I understand. Why such a thin blade with a small handle gets a low ball 58 HRC in this high toughness steel. Just 4 words, not for $20. As for the Vosteed, there's 2 things that make it worthwhile in my opinion. One is its overall design, which I think is pretty solid. And if I take the edge angle down to 17 degrees per side or 34 all-inclusive, we get a very small bump in edge retention, which moves it a little more solidly into the mediocre range. Yeah, at any rate, I'm going to give the Vosteed Mink in Nitro-V a maybe under $50. I'm just not sure what Nitro-V is doing in knives this small, I guess. Super tough, marginal edge retention. Seems like a waste.